this thing.
Okay.
All right, so I'll have your website pulled up here. Jude Washington, the number 4 sheriff.com. But what is it? Nearly 30 years of law enforcement experience,
Yeah.
lots of experience. What, just to start off, what initially drew you to law enforcement as a career path?
My mother was in law enforcement, man. So, and I was young. My dad took the different road. So,
Yeah,
sometimes you have to get at a point in the age where you have to choose a side, right?
yeah.
So I'm initially from San Diego, California, man. That's where
Okay.
and my father's from Montgomery, Alabama. So from the second grade until I graduated high school, I alternated cities. Sometimes I go to school in San Diego this year, Montgomery, Alabama the next year, and I did that pretty much all my life actually. So
Okay.
my mom was in the law enforcement when my mother and father divorced. I was young. I think I was 8 years old. I was 7 when they separated, and then he flew us here to Montgomery, and he stepped out on his own, left my mom with nothing. So my mom had to work hard to try to, put food on the table. So she got into law enforcement, man, and it was one of those things where um, my mother was always one of those people. You couldn't get in trouble with my mom. She wasn't gonna play getting
Yeah.
in trouble at all, man. So early on, my sister and I learned that just doing the right thing was always the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was in high school, I wasn't a good student. I'm honest about that. I really wasn't a good student. I had a disability that I wasn't aware of until I went in the military, as a matter of fact. But I did enough to get out of school, and I played sports. I did everything that you're supposed to do. Coming up, man, I played football, I wrestled, ran track, I boxed. I boxed in the military, as a matter of fact. So I did a whole lot, man. And I was always real active. Um, never a trouble kid. Never really got in a lot of trouble at all. Once again, like I said, my mom didn't play that. In the military, man, I was a corpsman. I was a Navy corpsman, which is a combat medic. But before I went in the military, I joined the Montgomery Police Department. I joined them,
Okay.
and I stayed there probably 8 months before I realized I needed some more discipline. So I joined the United States Navy,
Yeah.
man. I went in as a corpsman. Ended up being a combat corpsman with the Marine Corps at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I broke my back in a diving exercise and ended up getting forced out.
Oh.
And when I was forced out, I moved back to I came to Montgomery briefly, then I moved to San Diego. San Diego wasn't going to get it from my ex-wife, who was from Brooklyn, New York. So we came back this way. Actually, went to New York briefly, and then back down to Montgomery, Alabama, and I took a job that brought me up here to Birmingham.
Wow, man. I feel like I've never been to San Diego, but on a day like today, of all
Yeah,
days, when it's like all of a sudden 35 degrees,
yeah,
I think I'd have a hard time leaving San Diego.
it's hard, man. It's like 74 year round, but it's difficult.
Shoot. Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't come back to Montgomery. I wouldn't come back to Birmingham. I wouldn't come back to Trustful. I wouldn't come back to none of them.
Yeah,
I'd
when it when
stay.
it when it gets up to 85 degrees, man, they're complaining out there, man.
That's that's a different kind of living right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man. So after, like, just take me through the career and what's led you to now running for sheriff of Jefferson County.
Yeah, so that's interesting. When I started, when my first job here in Birmingham, I was a corrections officer, man, at William Donaldson Prison. And I'm gonna just be honest with you, bro. That is something that takes a special person to work in that prison.
Mm.
And it's just something I was not going to do anymore. It was things I saw. The type of attitude you have to develop to work in there is something that can bring you down and affect the way it will affect who you are as a person. And I
Yeah.
couldn't do it, man. There's some guys who handle it very well. I've worked with some. I know some that handle it very well. It was just different for me. It really was different for me. I didn't want to be cooped up in there, and I didn't like some of the things I was seeing. I just didn't like it. So, fortunately, I got a job working in the medical department at the Jefferson County Jail, of all places,
Yeah.
and I was a medic there. I worked in there for about 3 years, and at the time, the nurses were all employed by the sheriff's office, but they
Right.
decided to contract out. And when they contracted out, they were going to get rid of us. Ironically, every year I took the police test because I was going to be the medic on their SWAT team, and I was going to have to go through the reserve academy.
Yeah.
And when they did away with the nurses, I was in a position to just switch over and become a deputy at that time. And I had already been in law enforcement already. So I was in a good position at that time. So switched over, man, in 1998. Started working in the jail in Jefferson County, which is unfortunate. You have to work in the jail for 4 years before you get an
Mm,
opportunity to roll out on patrol. And that's not a lot of people want to stay in the jail for 4 years. And you get blue light
yeah.
fever, man. You want to go out there and do your thing, right? So did my thing there in the jail. In there, I got on the what they call the CERT team now. And I was actually team leader there. I actually brought a lot of innovation to that team. When I got there, like they had batons and tactical suits, and that was it. I was able to go to a competition up in West Virginia, and I learned a lot about what some of these other CERT teams were using, the technology, the weapons, what we saw less than lethal weapons,
Yeah.
and tactics that they were using. So I was able to bring some of that back to Jefferson County. I think I was the first person in Jefferson County to ever bring a taser to Jefferson County. I know I was the first one
Oh,
in the sheriff's office. I'm not sure about Jefferson County as a whole, but nobody had seen one when I brought one back from the SWAT competition.
when
So,
was that?
oh man, that was in 19. That would have been 1999, maybe.
Okay. Was it just new tech at the time or what?
It was. It was. It was a big
Okay.
bulky gun, man, and it hurt. It was nothing like the ones they have today, man. You weren't gonna see nobody fight through those things, man.
Those videos are crazy when you see that
Yeah,
stuff happen and people still going or running or
yeah.
fighting back. I'm like, I don't want any part of that.
Man,
No.
I hate to sound like I'm over aggressive, man, but there was no policy that we didn't have a policy for tasers, man. And
Oh
and
yeah.
and in Bessemer, I patrolled the Bessemer division of Jefferson County, and in Bessemer, man, it's one of those things where there's an understanding between the law enforcement officers and the criminals, and there's like this unwritten understanding, and you get in a fight with them, man, put them in handcuffs, and now you guys talking like old friends. It's just one of those things out
Yeah.
there. But I got tired of fighting, man, so started using that
Mm,
taser quite a bit. And back then, when you used the taser, you had to take the cartridge and send it back to Taser International before they sent you a new one. So
right.
we had the supply guy who would do that. Well, Taser was like, "Who's the guy who keeps shooting these people? Who keeps using all these taser cartridges?" And they literally came down here to meet me.
Oh wow.
They did. They literally came to meet me, man. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought maybe I'm a little bit heavy-handed with that taser now, but it prevented a lot of injury. Somebody
Yeah,
getting hurt. It really did.
sure.
Yeah.
So kind of putting all those experiences together, touching all these areas of a sheriff's office, jail, that kind of thing. You're just all those experiences together. What do you think that brings to this position that you're seeking now that maybe others don't have? Like how does that qualify you differently or something like that?
Well, so there's a lot that goes into it because just outside the jail and the patrol, I worked undercover for 18 years. So put that in perspective. So when you're pretending not to be the cops, you know what I'm saying? So you 18 years
Oh
of
my
doing
God.
that, you have a different perspective
Yeah.
than most law enforcement officers. You really do. But the the drive that has me running for sheriff is a lot more than that. It's more of a love for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, a place that I came up through. I was there when it was probably the best place in the state to work as far as law enforcement was concerned. Everybody around the state was trying to get a job at Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I was there then,
Yeah.
and then I was there until as of recently, where they can't pay a person enough to come work there as a deputy.
Mm,
There's some things that need to change. So after so many years there, you get to know the people. You get to know what kept people happy. You got to know what kept the citizens happy more than anything. I think citizens are a little disgruntled as well. But it's not all about friendships and who you know. And there's people you can know and they be a great friend of yours and they say, "Hey man, I'm going to do this." You have to be a friend enough to say, "Hey dude, you're not qualified." You
right.
have to be
Yeah.
able to say, "Hey bro, that's not you can't do that." And we don't do that around here, man. It's not. I'm not just speaking of the sheriff's office. I'm speaking of politics all together.
Yeah.
And when we get into law enforcement and the criminal justice system, there is no place for politics. I don't believe what side of the aisle you come from makes a difference, or should make a difference in our justice system. And I'm not going to let it play a part in my sheriff's office.
Yeah. I wanted to go back on the like when you came up through the sheriff's office and it was like the best place to work, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And I guess what I'm driving at is I guess morale, I guess is the word.
Right.
Is that something that you're seeing just across all police departments across the country over the last 5, 6 years, or is there something specific to Jefferson County that's got it a little down right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a countrywide thing at one point. You're starting to see these
Yeah.
departments starting to come back up now. You're starting to see citizens who oppose the police now accepting the police. So
Yeah.
it's things. There comes a point where you start saying, "Hey, man, get the police out of here," and the crime starts going up through the roof. You say, "Hey, man, where's the police? We need these jokers." So and I think we've gotten to that point in this country. But as far as the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office is concerned, man, I receive calls daily, man. People are still there, and the morale is like it's just below sea level.
Oh man. Why do you, I mean, are there any reasons you think that is? I'm not asking you to
Yeah,
comment on anybody in particular, but just
right,
I guess I'm asking you to generalize. But like,
right.
what are some of the traits you're hearing?
Oh, what I'm hearing more than anything, they're not allowed to do their job, and I know I saw that when I was there too. You're not being able to do your job, man, and all you have to do is stop the wrong person who knows somebody, and next thing you know, you're in a lot of trouble for nothing, just for doing your job. And it's become it's not. Yeah, I'm trying to be, as general as I can,
Yeah.
but the law enforcement officers there feel as if their hands are tied for everything, even in their personal lives.
Oh wow. That's tough.
It is.
That's tough. I wanted to pivot back again before we move forward with. I want to go through some of these, all of these things, really on your sheriff elect Jude Washington for sheriff.com. I want to go through those key initiatives, but uh, the 18 years undercover. Uh, with what you can talk about, if there's anything, what's the craziest thing you ever saw?
Man, that that's a long list, man. That is a long list. I've seen some crazy things, man. Man, it's just. Whew. I
18
mean,
years is a
I tell you,
long time.
I tell you what I have seen that pops in my mind because I think it's one of the first crazy things I saw. There was a house in Brighton, Alabama, where we were buying
Mhm.
drugs from, and we decided to go out one Saturday morning. Well, it was actually one Saturday evening to do surveillance on that house, and a guy pulls up and he gets out of a Jeep and he has on a full Delta pilot's uniform on, and he wasn't even from here. He was a pilot stopping through, borrowed a friend's car, went to the dope house, and we snatched him up. So you're thinking about these planes that are flying, man,
Oh
and
my
and at
gosh.
the time he was buying OxyContin of all things.
Man.
So that
I
was
don't
something that really kicked me in the gut.
Oh my gosh. You just never know who's doing what.
Nah,
Oh, I
and it
don't want to
goes.
get on a plane.
And you're right. I hate to say it, but it was, and he was a really, really polite guy we talked to, but he had a problem. He had
Yeah.
a problem, man. So we had to
He
tow
had a
the
problem.
car and take him to jail.
Man. Did you ever have any close encounters where you thought like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here or anything like that?
Yeah, some serious ones, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah. There's something. I mean, a lot of things I want to talk about, but there was one
Sure.
case where I actually walked into a house to uh, back then we stopped doing a whole lot of hand to hand undercovers here in Jefferson County, and I've done a few. Back then, most of my career was with the FBI, though. Most of my career in the drug career was with the FBI. I worked over there as a task force agent for almost the entire time I was working in narcotics. But I walked in the house, there was a guy who was a source of ours, and there was another guy I was supposed to be buying some drugs from. And I walked in, I'm sitting there talking to the dude. He's sitting at a table, and I'm talking to him, standing up. And there's some other guy sitting on the couch. When I look back on the couch, there's one of my sources sitting there. He's looking at me like, wow. And he texts me, "Do I need to get out of here?" I'm like, "Yeah, you need to get out of here."
Yeah.
But things could have went left because he could have said, "Hey, man, that's the cops." You
Yeah.
know, he could have took me out on that one. But That's
Wow.
one thing, man. To make you sometimes you don't feel that fear until it's over with.
Yeah.
When you think about what could have happened. Yeah.
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 Adrenaline and needing to get through it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and those are just the small things. We I don't know if you read this about 5 years ago. Another task force agent, he was a DEA though. He and I were with a source who was going to take us to where there was a lot of drugs in the house from a guy that we had previously arrested. And on our way there, we saw some kids with assault rifles run out of a building and out of projects, and we stopped and we backed up. I don't know why my partner backed up, but he did. And he said, "Man, call the police." I'm like, "Yeah, here we are, the police. We got to call the police." We didn't have radio, so we, going to get on the
Yeah.
phone. And believe it or not, I was put on hold on the 911 call, man. So end up, I told him, I said, "Look, man, we got the address. Let's just take this. Let's get out of here, and get this guy to where we got to go." And as we turn onto the street, we're going to turn on the car, cuts us off, and it's those same kids, but they catch
Oh
out,
man.
man. They go a whole mile, 1.4 miles is how long the street was. I had to go back and measure it. And they went all the way down to the end of the street. Well, we're thinking these are some crazy kids.
Yeah.
And when we get to the corner, my partner's about to turn right, and he says, "Ain't that them kids?" And as soon as he said that, they start shooting into the car, man. Just boom, 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 glass flying everywhere. He throws the car in reverse. We get out of there. Nobody's hit, which was amazing. I called
Yeah.
Bessemer PD on the phone, and they were there within 30 seconds. Maybe less. I mean, it was a bunch of cars, but they ended up
Wow.
catching the guys, man. And what it was with these guys was a mistaken identity. They had been shot at earlier by some guys in a black car with orange rims on it. We had a black car, we didn't have orange rims, but they decided to
Mm.
start shooting anyway. And so that was a pucker moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Last thing on undercover work, not a specific story or anything, but like what kind of like getting into that, what kind of attributes do you need? Like what's most important in that work, like across any case? Like obviously keeping your cool, stuff like that, but like what really do you need to be successful in that?
That is also another good question because we've had guys in narcotics, man, who were nerds. We had some knuckle draggers. We've had some just country boys, man. I have one right now. Friend, man, I have a friend right now. You would think he came straight from Jed Clampett, man. You know, and and they all brought their own different attribute to it
Mm,
that had a place in the division. So, but you would know a person who's not fit for it because they tend
mm.
to know it first, and they don't want no
Oh,
parts of it because it's a dangerous job. We did our
yeah.
own entries on search warrants. We didn't use SWAT to do entries for us. All of us went to SWAT school. So when we did search warrants, we're the ones that knocked the doors down or whatever. And and if you're not prepared for that, if you can't see yourself going through a door, knowing somebody's on the other side, probably with a weapon, and you don't have those guts to go through that door, you will know it,
Mm,
and you'll make a
yeah.
decision not to be there.
Yeah. That's
Right.
true. That's true. Um, let's go through these key initiatives. I think you've got 10 of them listed. We'll just kind of go through, I guess, kind of in order. Just Deputy Recruitment and Retention Initiative, implement sign-on bonuses to attract and retain top talent. Why is that important, and how do you kind of implement sign-on bonuses and that kind of thing?
Right. So at this time, they're having a difficult time recruiting people for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Right now, they're getting a lot of people who retired from Birmingham, who's coming over to work. But we're looking at guys who've already done their time in law enforcement, man, and they're not coming there to get in the cars and chase people. That's not what they want to do. So we need to get some young blood in there at high numbers at this point. And it's difficult to recruit when you're not giving any incentives for people to be there. If I'm a young cop today and I say I want to be the sheriff's office, and they say, okay, now come on in, you got to stay in the jail for 4 years. They would say, no, hold on.
Mm,
So we have to find initiatives to bring them in and to retain them, which means, in my opinion, I think we need to go to the county commission. I know there was a lawsuit that was filed years ago that you can't separate corrections and enforcement, but anything can be undone. In this situation, it has to be undone because you're going to have people who want to work corrections. We'll hire them for that, and then you want people who want to work enforcement, hire them for that, and it can be done. When it comes on the sign-on bonuses, is you look at what Birmingham is doing, man. That came from the blitz that the county, the personnel state personnel board, Jefferson County Personnel Board did. They they did a blitz and helped with the hiring. And Birmingham, I think right now is probably 40. They were 48 officers short, and they had 90 in the academy. So they're going to be looking pretty good here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, that takes away that second initiative. You already talked about one led into that with the separate corrections from enforcement,
Right.
distinct roles to enhance efficiency. So check there. Um, let's move to this third one. Implement jail improvement, improve living conditions and inmate management and security. Take me through just the meaning of that and how you go about it.
Right. So right now, I think if my numbers are pretty correct at this point, the jail is operating probably at 30% capacity as far as the numbers of people they have working there as security. That's got to improve. Now, if you have people who want to work as corrections officers, man, then you would probably do well by hiring people that want to work as corrections officers. But you're not recruiting for that. You're recruiting for law enforcement officers. So it needs to be put out there that that's what we need in the county jail. All right. My last 2 months working at the sheriff's office, I was when I came back, reassigned to the jail, and I worked in the jail for my last 2 or 3 months there, and I worked in the jail previously like everybody else had to, and it's a different generation, and I understand that, but you can't treat those people inhuman in this county jail because you're going to have problems. You are going to have problems, and those people aren't in there for singing too loud in the choir, bro. And just to be honest with you, they're not in there for that. So when you start harassing them, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. You're not Superman. That badge is not a can of spinach, man. And you're not Popeye. And I think these young cats just don't see it that way. But there's some training that needs to go along with how you treat people. And I'm not saying coddle them at all. It's something called security, custody, and control, firm but fair. That's what you have to be in the jail. You have to maintain control of it. But you also have to understand, like, their isolation up there, their isolation unit. And I don't remember how many cells it is, but you had 4 guys in a cell, man. That in isolation should only be one in the cell. But you have 4 in most of these cells, and these guys, some 20 days, 60 days, 90 days in isolation with no shower, no change of clothes, nothing. Now, someone will argue me this and say that's not true, but I can prove it, and I will. But when I got in there, I'm up there talking to these guys, and they're like, man, we ain't had a shower in months, man. So I go to the shower. It appeared to me it was grass growing out of it, man. It's like so much mold in it. So I had to have the shower cleaned. Then the shower didn't even work. I had to have it fixed. There was a hole in the ceiling. I had to have the painters come fix the hole. And it took maybe 4 days before we got all that fixed. And then I spent the next 2 days letting these guys out one at a time to take showers and then changing their clothes and giving them soap. That should never happen.
Yeah.
That should never happen. So we look at people who commit crimes and we say that's where he needs to be in jail. Now, this is the county jail. This isn't the state prison. Everybody's not found guilty yet, right? But the bigger point I want to make is that we all know somebody or have somebody in our family who's been to jail, and we don't want to see them mistreated when they go there.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people who go to jail, man, who probably didn't need to be there, and people like you and I, man, it can happen to anybody. It really can. So you don't, and I'm not saying the deputies were mistreating them. I think it's a culture that, if you come up in a culture, then that's what you're going to adopt. And I think that the adoption kept continuing. And one situation where there was a floor, and every day there was a fighting on the floor every day. And the deputy, I liked the young guy, but I didn't know why they were fighting on this floor every day. He would come down mad, throwing people in the hole, throwing them in isolation. He was filling it up. And I went up there one day to talk to him, and one of the inmates said, "Can I talk to you, Sarge?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, can we get television?" I said, "You got television." He said, "Man, we don't have no, they won't let us watch the television." So I asked the deputy, I said, "Man, why don't you turn on the television?" He said, "This guy was acting up some time ago. And I told him, if he keeps acting up, I'm going to take the television." I said, "Well, you punish him. You don't punish everybody." I said, "Dude, do you understand that they're fighting because they don't have nothing else to do?" You give him
Mm,
a television, the fight is going to stop, you know. And
yeah.
not only had he cut him off, he took the cord from the television, had him in the cube with him. And in his mind, he was just punishing them for being out of control, but he wasn't realizing the fact that he was breaking up fights every day.
Just a brief timeout from the episode. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel, whether that be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen or watch your podcast. Like the video, like the podcast. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, comment. Appreciate you guys a lot. Let's get back to this episode. Yeah.
Right.
How
So
how hard is that to balance when it's like, like they're in there for a reason. Usually, I mean,
yes, yes.
I'm generalizing,
No,
but
yeah.
like they're there for a reason. You've for X amount of time, you've quote unquote lost your freedom, but
Right.
there are things like that in there. How hard is that to balance, knowing what buttons to push, and when and that kind of thing? That seems incredibly hard to me.
Yeah, it is hard because there's so many different personalities,
Yes.
that are in there. And then I'm not just talking about the inmates, I'm talking about the deputies too. So you have so
Okay.
many different personalities, but I have to reflect back to those people who supervised me or those people who mentored me as I was coming up and try to reflect on those things that worked back then. Now, people, these the generation today say, well, these ain't the same type of people. Yeah, it is. Their mentality's a little different, but the actions still work. It still works, and it's easily proven. You just have to give it a try.
Okay. Interesting. Let's keep going. Commission a homicide division. Ensures investigators can focus on critical homicide cases without having to investigate other crimes. Seems pretty self-explanatory, but
Yeah.
enlighten me. Go in depth
Uh,
on that one.
30 years with Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, they've never had a homicide division. What they have is called a criminal division. And so with that, you could be a crimes against persons or crimes against property crimes investigator. But sometimes it's shorthanded like they are today. And today you'll be working homicide. Tomorrow you'll be given a burglary, or a robbery, and you can't focus on this homicide that you have. A robbery is a crime against a person. So I'm not just working homicides. I'm working robberies. I'm working burglaries. I'm working all kinds of things that are not giving me the opportunity to focus on a homicide to solve, something that's going to be dear to those surviving members.
Yeah. Okay. How does someone, like, if you create a homicide division, like kind of like you were talking about separating corrections from enforcement,
Right.
like what qualifications, that kind of, how would you work your way into being on the homicide division if it was created?
So how it typically works is that we will put out a letter saying, "Hey, we have openings in this homicide division. So if you're interested, you apply." So when they apply, we have a team of people who interview these guys, and we'll pick out the best ones and send them to more training. If it's homicide school, some of them been. Some of these guys, some of these young guys in the jail, man, are very smart, and I've seen them go to SWAT school while they were still working in the jail. I've seen them go to homicide investigation school while
Wow.
they were still in the jail. So they're getting ahead of the curve, man. And they're very ambitious, a lot more ambitious than they were when I was coming up through there, man. And they're ready to work, man. And all of they're being deflated, right now because they're not able to use the things that they have, man. So I think, yeah, that's just one thing. Just you have to interview them and decide who your most qualified person is for that position, and you vote on it, and we pick those people that way.
I got you. Um, Develop a full-time SWAT unit that focuses on surveillance, fugitive apprehension, warrant execution, intelligence, and emergency operations.
Correct.
So no full-time SWAT unit now, but
Yeah. So
what,
so
what
so what I mean by that is, um, Jefferson County has what's called SNet, right? And those guys they just travel the whole Jefferson County, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. They are sharp. They are sharp. They're good, man. And I used to love to get them out to stop cars for us and gather information or whatever. But like SWAT, most of those guys were on SWAT, and you have some of the guys who are on what do you call it? Like they do like intelligence work, and they had
Okay.
SNet, you had SWAT, and Bomb Squad, all those guys. It's a special tactical unit,
Yeah.
special operations unit. So I think the best thing to do is to get all those guys, um, pick a team that there's one team that they're ready for SWAT stuff all the time, emergency stuff all the time, but they're working as a full-time unit. That's what they do. They don't have to go answer calls and that sort of thing. Just like SNet, they don't answer calls. They just go out and do what they do. And and I want to bring that a huge division to that. So that we can have surveillance teams, not just for tactical operations, but even if homicide investigators need somebody to do surveillance on some suspects of them, we need that as well.
It sounds like all these key initiatives, as you've got them labeled here, it's like a way to ultimately, like, it categorizes and very clearly spells out like what your role is if you're a part of
Hmm.
the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and
Right.
whatever division or role, that kind of thing. And it sounds like if you're able to succeed in that, that just by doing that can improve morale, I would assume.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly what I'm talking about, man. Creating new units, fresh things for these people to do that's going to help solve crimes in Jefferson County, help fight the criminal element. That right there would change the morale in itself. But they don't even have the manpower to do the basic things right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I'm I'm a,
Well,
um
that's
I'm a I'm keep talking, but I got my charger. I need to put
you're
my phone.
good.
Yeah,
You're
but
good.
let's go.
All right. Next one on here: effective policing in high crime areas. Implement strategic crime reduction initiatives while ensuring accountability. Um, what what are some of those initiatives, and how do you ensure accountability? Accountability. Excuse me.
So, we used to have this at one point, man, where when you had liaisons throughout the community who dealt with specific deputies um, about issues that were going on in the community. We used to have that. We don't have it much anymore, and that's something that needs to be a solid project. We need people who are going to be able to say, "Hey, I need to speak to deputy such and such," so that we can and tell them about a dope house or whatever that's going on in the community. We get people that call in and complain about this stuff all the time. But if the neighborhoods had liaisons who dealt with the sheriff's office, it'd be a lot simpler.
Okay. Next one, full-time motor scout traffic and accident investigations unit, enhanced traffic enforcement and public safety. So
Absolutely
another division unit, that kind of thing that would be created.
correct. So
Tell me about that.
when you look at it, the motor scouts in most departments are the ones who work the traffic accidents and such, right? And
Hmm.
it keeps your law enforcement officers on the streets. In not well, they're law enforcement officers as well, but it keeps your patrol guys on the streets. So you need a unit that's going to be able to just work accidents, and they got a good unit. Hold on, they have a good accident homicide unit right now. They're really good. But we need to be able to keep the deputies on the streets. Have a motor scout unit. They write citations. They work the traffic. Make people feel more comfortable on the streets. I don't know if you've driven on 459 or 2059 early in the mornings. If
Yeah,
you're doing 90 miles an hour, you're gonna get ran off the road, bro. It's too slow.
it's crazy,
It is.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
But
I
all of this is for safety, though. All of this is for
Yeah,
safety. It's not about show or anything. It's about safety. But we can get lax in what we do and just be satisfied with what we got. But we can't do that. We need to progress in Jefferson County.
yeah. You've already kind of touched on this with the form a qualified jail investigative team, address internal issues and improve facility oversight. I think we've kind of
Well,
covered that, or is there more
well,
to that?
that's more to that. Right now, the last in 2000 between 2012 and 2018. Well, we can go back to 2008 between 2008 and 2018. There were probably 7 deaths in the county jail.
Wow.
In the last two terms, there have been about 33. Matter of fact, they had one today. But a lot of those deaths are pretty much on from drug overdoses or
Mm.
drug usage in some way, form, or fashion. And a few years ago, I was charged with trying to find out where these drugs were coming from inside the Jefferson County Jail. Me, myself, and another deputy. And we actually, within excuse me, within 2 months, I think we arrested four employees. Yeah, about two deputies and two civilian workers. And
Oh my gosh.
but right after that, they never had us continue to work those type of cases in there anymore. But the jail needs an investigator who is a seasoned investigator and stop just picking somebody in the jail and say, okay, now you're the jail investigator, because that's what's going on right now. A person who has no experience in investigating anything is now investigating all the stuff in the jail.
Yeah.
But I need investigators in the jail who can investigate not just drugs coming in, but who can also investigate the homicides if it takes place in the jail. Work up the cases on these drug overdoses, to stop pulling away from my detectives who work in criminal division and pulling them off of what they're supposed to be doing. It needs to be self-contained in that jail.
I got you. Okay. Let's get to these last two, and then I've got a few more questions after that. But next one, autonomize the internal affairs unit, ensure transparency and unbiased investigations within the department. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Hey, self-explanatory, man. Right now, I think an internal affairs division should be separate from any other,
Yeah.
from the entire sheriff's office. There should
Right.
not be any influence coming from the sheriff's office into the internal affairs office. And you can't be led by somebody who just puts their hooks in people and keeps them there and is going to do whatever they
Yeah.
can to you know there's a person in internal affairs right now, and that person during a class told the class, you know, if I don't get you on one thing, I'm gonna get you on another, and that's not a fair thing to
Oh,
say to law enforcement officers, man. Especially when, it really pretty much tells your personality, and but you would have to see it, man. You would have to see it, man. I'm trying
yeah.
not to go down that road right now, man. But
Sure. Sure.
but it is things got to change in that division.
So something that would be kind of like you said, kind of separate from
It should definitely
the.
be separate from the rest of the sheriff's office. You see it
Gotcha.
in other agencies, larger agencies. You see that, like in New York, man. In New York, heck, man, their internal affairs unit, half of the cops never knew who these people were.
Oh man.
They didn't even know who they were.
Yeah.
It's this huge place. They got 50,000 cops, but at the same time, you know, uh, 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 these cops weren't. They didn't have the ability to be biased towards anybody because they didn't deal with them. And I know that's
Exactly.
hard. I know that's hard, but there's some good things that come out of that division. But for the most part, right now, I think it really. Yeah, I'm trying not to go down that road, man.
You're good. You're good. No, no, I get it. Like it's like it's called internal affairs, but like I
Yeah,
don't know. I'm not in that world, but like I would in my mind I like to liken things to unbiased. Like I think yeah, your word that was in there was unbiased, and I think about like a jury or something in a case, right? Like for
right,
instance, I'll give you an example. I am one of those people that, people dread when the jury duty comes to their
right,
mailbox.
yeah,
I'm not one of them. I like
right,
it. Maybe I'm weird. I like jury duty. I think it's cool to go and learn that stuff.
right,
But I go in for jury duty. This is 10, 12 years ago, something like that. I
yeah,
go in, get selected to go in and hear, it was a civil case. And I go in, and at the time, I was the editor at the local newspaper in the city that I'm in. Okay.
okay,
And the case, I'm sitting there, I look at like the people sitting that are in the room, and I knew one of them. And it wasn't a
mm-hmm,
person on trial. It was actually the opposite. And they start spelling out the case, giving you the high, just the high level.
right,
Here's what this case is. And then they go to jury selection. And this crime, I mean, it was a crime, but they took it to civil,
right,
and it happened in Trustful. I'm the editor of the Trustful newspaper. So when they
yeah,
get to like that little part where you just kind of tell the lawyers like, your name and what you do for a living,
right,
I
right,
was like I was like, I'm Gary Lloyd and I'm the editor at the newspaper in the city that this alleged crime occurred.
Right.
Uh, defense immediately strike him, get him out the room, get him out the room, and like
Yeah.
that's a long-winded way of saying like I wouldn't have been good for that
Hmm.
because there probably would have been some inherent bias there, but
Right.
and so they needed someone that was outside that scope to sit in on it, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I have friends always call me, man, say, hey man, I gotta go to jury duty. Can you get me out of it? And I'm like, nah, man, you need to go.
I ended up on a case that was back on the criminal side, which was much more preferred. Like, I mean, let's just be honest, it's more interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
it is, and it was fascinating. Like, I didn't end up foreman or anything like that, but I was a voice in the room, and it was
Yeah.
really cool to see how that process played out.
Right. Right. Understood.
I
Understood.
I think people should welcome it, and hey, it's a free day off work, if anything. Or at least it was for me. It was for
Right.
me.
Right.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. All right. Last one, then a few more questions. Return control of division to first line supervisors. Gives first line supervisors the ability to correct the shortcomings of those they supervise. First, just what's a first line supervisor and just what does that mean?
So, every division is led by a first line supervisor, which is typically the sergeant of that division. As of now, this administration, the sergeant really has no say so. He's pretty much just like the deputies that are there. But if let's say you were one of my deputies and you did something that was like out of line, I could talk to you and say, "Hey, man, this is how we do this," or I can do even a verbal reprimand. Nothing that's going to hurt you, but it's, hey, man, this is. I mean, I'm not a verbal reprimand, but a written reprimand. But nothing that's going to
Yeah.
hurt you. And just say, hey, man, we need some correction on this, and we can recommend either some more training or just, keep guiding you in the direction that we need you to go. Now, if you do anything wrong, it has to go directly to internal affairs, and then they're going to put the axe on you, and then that's got to stop. That's got to stop. That's why people are afraid to do their job. Sergeants
Yeah.
are afraid to even to try to correct their own deputies, because if they try to do that, then they're going to be out of line for not turning them over to internal affairs.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I'm right there in lockstep with you on that. Yeah, I would
Mhm.
much rather have something constructive than basically put me behind the eight ball for who knows how long and make me
Right.
worried to make any decision going forward.
Correct. Correct. You can't have that.
No, no, especially not in this line of work. No.
No.
Um, I've got several of these kind of written down here, but in your view, I mean Jefferson County, I mean largest county in the state, it's a big place. What's the single biggest public safety issue facing the county right now, in your view?
The public safety issue, drugs.
Yeah,
Drugs. It really is, man. The amount of drugs that are coming into not just Jefferson County, but a lot of cities across a lot of counties within the United States. Um, and here's the issue. We can combat the drugs at the border all we want to. It's still going to get over here, but it's not about the people that's bringing it over. It's about the supply and demand. If we didn't want it, if we didn't have such an addiction here, we wouldn't have a reason for it to come over here, and we wouldn't be fighting it the way that we are. So it's a double-edged sword. I fought drugs for years and years, and there comes a time where you just feel like, hey, if I knock off several kilos, 12, 15 kilos of heroin or cocaine today, there's another 20 that just came in the back door. So,
oh, yeah.
but there is a life that you just saved, at some point, So it was interesting in learning a whole lot about it. Wow, that's why I developed that mentality. It's not more about the people that's bringing it over here. It's about the supply and demand.
Hmm.
But
How
it is the.
crazy?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say how crazy like with fentanyl these days. How crazy has that become truly?
It is bad. So I remember when heroin hit of the scene. It was around 2010 when it hit big here, and I was leaving. I left and went to Iraq. I took a leave of absence and went to work, do security for dignitaries in Iraq. So I did that for a couple of years, and I came back. Now heroin is like the thing. Uh, the opioid at the time I left was OxyContin. Heroin was just now hitting the scene, And now when I come back, heroin is everywhere. And then we started seeing the fentanyl coming in. One of the FBI agents, a guy named Wayne Gearhart, I worked with. He at the bureau. I worked with him my entire time at the bureau. He and I went to interview a lady one time, man. And being in the nursing field, I kind of knew what the lady was. She was talking to us, but she was sucking on a funny looking sucker. And I said, "Is that fentanyl?" She said, "Yeah." You ain't supposed to be doing this. You're not. But she had a fentanyl pop that she got from a hospital somehow. But right after that, we started seeing a lot of fentanyl coming in and precursors where people were mixing it, and it would come in parts, and they would mix it, and now you got the drug itself, the synthetic drug itself, and it's what 50 times, 100 times more powerful than heroin, and 60% cheaper. So I think that became a big issue, how cheap it was.
Yeah. So with not just fentanyl, but the drug problem being the biggest public safety issue
Hmm.
facing the county, like what measures, like how do y'all combat it? How do you combat that supply and
Yeah.
demand and make sure that people are safe and that people who are doing wrong
Hmm.
don't do wrong anymore?
Right. So that what you have. I'm good at that now. What you have to
Yeah.
do is you have to just be diligent when it comes to the drug trade. As a law enforcement officer, you have to be diligent. You're going to get burned out. You're going to have your burned out days, man, because it doesn't stop. There's a lot of nights of people calling you 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and now you have to call your supervisor at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And now you have to get a whole team of guys up at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to go grab what you think is going to be several kilos of dope, and you get there and it's less than an ounce. But still, you're doing your job. You have to let the public know, those not the public, yeah, the public too. You have to let those people who are going to be trying to
Mhm.
move dope through your community that they're not going to be welcome there. And I'm gonna tell you right now, one thing about me when it comes to drugs are the root of most of all the crimes that take place in Jefferson County. You
Sure.
can talk to any Birmingham police officer about a person that was murdered, and I guarantee you, in their investigation, drugs were related uh, uh, to that crime in some way, form, or fashion. And I'm going to put it at about 95% of the homicides that take place in Jefferson County were drug related. I can almost assure you that. And I've talked to homicide detectives, and we've come to a
Yeah.
conclusion on that. But you have to be diligent. You have to be out there to show these people that we're not playing that. As a matter of fact, I will welcome those drug dealers to come through Jefferson County. Please come through here. Come because we're going to put you in prison, and we're going to talk to these judges, and we're going to stop these judges and slap you on the wrist. You need to go to prison. You got to have a loud bullhorn, and let people know. And yeah, of course, we care about the violent crimes too. We're going to do the same thing with
Sure.
them. Bring it if you want to. And that's how I feel about it.
I got you. I got you. Just got to be tough on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got you.
you can be tough on crime and still you can be tough on crime and still be that courteous person to the public.
Yeah.
But the public needs to understand that you're doing this for them. You're not doing this to for anything else. I don't care about notoriety, man. My whole career has been people not knowing who I was and what I was doing. So I could care. I don't care about being a celebrity. I don't care about being on television. I don't care about anything but seeing people safe, man. I want to see people to feel like they're safe in their own homes. They can go to the store if they want to without worrying about being robbed or anything else. I really feel that way, and I know it's going to be
Yeah.
hard to stop. You can't stop all of it. I understand that, but if you can get your department back up to par to where you can reduce it even more, it's even better. You need to partner with other agencies. Birmingham and Jefferson County should have been working together years ago.
Mm.
Not just for some little project where the county's pulling up and blocking up the streets while y'all do your operations. No, they need to be investigating together. They need to be working together. And this isn't no clout um, arena, man. This is about
Yeah.
everyone in law enforcement wearing a badge should have that same mentality. They should have that same purpose. And I know they don't, but if we're in a perfect world,
Yeah. How do you I'm curious about youth. Um Outreach to younger groups, teenagers, high school kids.
hmm
Um what would an outlook like that look like for you from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to
yeah.
encourage them to, make the right choices and that kind of thing?
hmm So often, all too often, we look at just popping in and popping out as being, I'm doing my part. Myself, I'm a founder of a nonprofit organization called the Genesis Project, man. And for years, we started out in the county jail. Yeah, me and a guy by the name of Deputy Posey, we started out doing it in the county jail where we would bring kids whose the parents like to say, he been bad. I'm gonna take him to jail. I'm like, nah, you don't do that to your kids. But what we started doing was gathering several of those kids up, take them to the county jail, man, take them upstairs, let them see these inmates in the doggone cells. And we would fingerprint them, take their mugshots, and give that to their parents as ID for them. Which we stopped doing that because I didn't want to acclimate those kids to the jail, right? But we would have a table downstairs with several inmates, and the inmates would talk to them, right? And then we would try to stay in touch with those kids, man, and try to not just pop out of their life, you know. And there's no greater feeling than this is about 4 or 5 years ago. I was going through a Wendy's parking lot, and the kid at the drive-through started talking to me, and I don't know who he is. He said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I said, "No, not really." He said, "Man, you took me up to that jail, man. You scared the devil out of me with them kids, them prisoners up there." I said, "Ah, okay." He said, "Man, I leave for the army tomorrow." I said, "That's awesome, bro. Yeah,
Oh,
that's awesome, man." So I was glad to see, he come out of a very rough situation, man. And I'm not saying that what I did influenced him all the way, but it was part of the influence. So I just think
yeah,
we have to have programs, partner with some of these nonprofit organizations that really, really work with these kids. And I know several of them that they really work with these kids, man. And I think that partnering up with them, man, would be a lot, would help a lot. But there's other things these kids need to do. They need to be able to come out to the sheriff's office at the range and put them in the situation of a law, not just kids, but even regular citizens. Put them in a situation of a cop, you know. And so now you're the police. You're in behind the wheel of this car. You're going to stop this car. And you're going to try to write this person a ticket, and then see how you respond, how they respond to it, you
hmm,
know, and let them see that's a split second moment. You know, he reached for a gun. What are you gonna do? You're gonna run. You're gonna shoot him. You're gonna do what are you gonna do? You know, you criticize somebody else for shooting him, but it's either you or him. You know, those situations that people need to be put in, or even just to see it. Because right now nobody wants to release these body cameras. I totally understand how that destroys a case in court, but regular citizens don't understand that. They just want to see it.
yeah,
But we really need to include the citizens in a little more in what we do without giving our secrets away.
yeah. Talking about kind of along those lines, like I asked kind of like about like youth and you just mentioned kind of incorporating the citizens. What about uh the municipalities, the cities that are in Jefferson County that I'm going to be pretty specific here, that don't have their own city police departments, like City of Clay, City
Hmm.
of Pinson. Those are close by to me.
Right.
What would interaction look like with those types of cities that have grown, but the means aren't there to have their own police department, but they do have contracted deputies.
Right. Right. So that's one thing. I'm not really a student on how those contracts really work from the inside. But those unincorporated areas that don't have their departments, that's responsibility of the sheriff's office anyway. So the city they fund those for those contracted deputies. That's just the way that they make money. But if I truly believe that the sheriff's office can be up to par to enough deputies to where you don't have to have that one contracted deputy out there. The deputy has backup and other deputies that can be there to help them. Um, as far as I'm not sure if I really understand your question when you're saying what does that look like. What do you mean specifically?
Um, I don't know. Like I look at those cities now, and I'm kind of talking out of my rear a little bit here, but like maybe these cities have like two contracted deputies or something,
Hmm.
and I don't know what their shift type stuff looks like, but I
Right.
guess would it be something like that similar? What would the presence, I guess, is what I'm driving at, look like in those cities? Like those cities would know that they're covered, I guess.
Right. Right. That comes back with the numbers with the recruitment. We need more deputies. Unfortunately, we have cities like Fairfield and Midfield. Fairfield has a full police department, but Jefferson County answers all their calls. I had not understood that.
Hmm.
It makes no sense. When you have those deputies who work that area, you have Mulga, Edgewater, Sylvan Springs down there.
Yeah.
Now their response time is longer because you got deputies working up here in the city that already has a police department. That's either your police officers need to be trained to do their job, or you just need to abolish your police department. And I know the police officer, it's not their fault. It's not the chief of police fault. It's not. It's the government that has made an agreement that just really, to most people, if they knew how the agreement was, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I got you. Okay. That's interesting. Um, Let me ask this one. I'm going to read it verbatim because so I don't want to mess it up. But this role you would deal with so many things: public accountability, like we kind of talked about, budgets,
Hmm.
the politics side of things. Good Lord, a lot of outside of what you would think of maybe as badge responsibilities in a way.
Right.
Um, you feel prepared for that leadership, that management, that operation kind of thing?
Right. And let me tell you what drives me that though. What drives
Yeah,
me to that is seeing where it's at now. So yeah, I'm prepared for that leadership. I'm very well prepared for it. But just see where it's at now, it drives me to want to make it a better place. It really does, man.
absolutely. Um, this campaign is obviously well underway. We won't know till what, May 19th, 2026, is
Right.
when everybody will vote. But as part of this, moving forward in this, what's one thing you wish every Jefferson County resident that will vote, months from now, uh, what's something you wish they understood about law enforcement, your vision, that kind of thing?
I think what I want the citizens to know about law enforcement is that it's not always at face value. Sometimes what you see isn't the way that it really works. What you believe, what you see on television isn't how it really goes. And that's really hard. It's because jury trials are an issue. People lose trials because of what they saw on CSI. I know you guys can do that. No, it's
Yeah.
television. And I can't begin to tell you how on a scene, how many times I've heard from people, I know the law, and they're wrong as two left shoes. You know what I mean? And so I really would like to educate the public to that, right? So I would like to have some of these type of academies, to go with it, so citizens can come in, put their name on a list, and hopefully at some point down the line they get invited to the academy and they get to see, how things actually work, and they can go back and tell their friends and that sort of thing. But when it comes to me, I have the wherewithal, man. I have the drive. I have the ethics, the knowledge to make Jefferson County a better place. And I want people to know that I've done my job and I did it well. And there's a whole lot I want to say that I just can't say right now, man. But I just want you to know. But the most important part, I think my biggest attribute is that I truly care. I care about the people of Jefferson County, man. If you ever talk to anybody who's having any dealings with me, they would tell you that. Now the other people, some other people who gonna tell you just the total opposite, man. I mean, I send a lot of people to prison, man. That's to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I have some of those people that work for me now on my nonprofit.
Yeah.
So I've always treated them well. I always took care of them when they got out. I helped them find jobs, bought them suits for their interviews, that sort of thing. These are people
Mm.
I sent to prison, and now some of them work for my nonprofit. And they talk to these kids and try to keep them out of trouble. So it's about being a tough law enforcement officer, making the sheriff's office a no nonsense place to work, or a place to depend on, and at the same time, showing that compassion towards those people that you serve.
Yeah. I'll name drop one person that did speak highly because I didn't know you before today. Ben Short, that's Trustful's new mayor. I graduated
Yeah,
with Ben,
yeah,
and
yeah.
me and him are recording, or well, not recording. We'll do a little live show thing tonight talking about him being mayor. But he had
Awesome.
he had he had positive things to say. So
Yeah, that's cool, man. I ain't seen Ben in a while, man. But yeah, that's good to hear. Tell Ben I said thank you.
I
The check's in
will.
the mail.
I'll tell him. I'll tell him. Well, last thing, man, running for something like this and it feels far away. I mean, six
Hmm.
months. I mean, it's half a year. But like, what are those? I know it'll come quick, but what are
Coming
those?
back.
What will those 6 months entail for you? What does that look like?
Well, I am a combat veteran. I do have PTSD and I don't sleep well. I have insomnia pretty bad, right?
Hmm.
This is the time where the insomnia comes in as a benefit because I don't do any sleeping, man. I really don't, man. And I'm up all night, trying to figure out what the next day is going to bring. Later on this evening, I'm have to go somewhere else and speak, and I'm speaking everywhere I can. And that, along with just coming up with strategies and dealing with your team and such, it's a lot of work, man. And then coming to work at the same time, you're working at the same time, so it's a lot of work. And I'm up for it though. I'm not running away from any part of it.
I said that was my last thing, but you said something that made me want to ask one more thing. Having that PTSD and that insomnia part, how do you manage that? What
It
is
took
that
it
like
took
for
some
you?
time, man. It took some time. It cost me two marriages. Let me just say that. It was like when you know there's an issue with you, you're not the same person, but you refuse to get help, man. And so I'm gonna give a plug to the VA hospital when it comes to my mental health, man. If it wasn't for them, man, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. As a matter of fact, in 2018, I was going to run for sheriff, and the reason I pulled out was because I wasn't doing right as far as my medication and or my therapy or just my outlook at
Yeah.
my outlook on life. It was just sour, and a lot of it was self inflicted as well. I was hurting myself, doing just not being the man I should have been. So now I'm back on track, man. And I love where I'm at, and I'm diligent, and I speak a lot on PTSD. I speak out to other people I know who have it, and a lot of cops call me when they're stressed out about things, man, and just to talk, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love it, man. I think it was a curse and it's also a blessing at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you talking about that for
Yeah,
sure.
no
That
doubt,
was,
no doubt.
yeah. All right. So, best way for people to follow, I mean, what, Jude Washington, the number 4 sheriff.com.
That's
What
correct.
else? I'm sure it'll be all the fun things that your team and stuff, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, all that mess, right?
Yeah, Facebook would be elect Jude committee. What is it? Elect Jude Washington for sheriff. Committee to elect Jude Washington for sheriff something like that. I can't remember my Facebook. I got so much stuff going on right now.
I
But if you
bet
put my name in there, it's going to pop up. Ain't too many
you'll
Jude
find it.
Washingtons around here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time, getting to know you. Maybe closer to we can do another one of these things, see how it's going, and good luck with the campaign, and just really appreciate you taking the time for real.
No, I appreciate you, man, and I guarantee you, man, when things get to moving on, man, and it comes a time for some other things, I'll be reaching out to you.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I'm all ears.
No doubt, no doubt. We'll talk offline, bro.
All right. Appreciate you, Jude.
All
Thank
right,
you.
man. You take care.
You
All right,
too.
bye bye.